In this video, I'm going to explain literary devices like Anaphora, Epistrophe and Symploce. Now here is a definition of Anaphora. Anaphora is a repetition of a certain word or phrase at the beginning of successive lines of writing or speech. Now here are some instances of Anaphora. Now here is a classic example of Anaphora, just taken from Martin Luther King's speech, I Have a Dream, and it goes like this. Let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the hiking Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. And the definition of Anaphora is that it's a repetition of a word or of a certain word or words at the beginning of successive lines or sentences. So here you can see the words or a sequence of words, let freedom ring, at the beginning of successive lines are being repeated, successive sentences are being repeated. And what is the meaning of successive sentences? It means one sentence after another sentence without any break. So let freedom ring is are the words that are being repeated at the beginning of successive sentences here. And it's not just in sentences, it can be repeated in successive lines or clauses or phrases. That's Anaphora. Now let's check out a few more examples of Anaphora. Now here are a few familiar lines from Wordsworth's Tintin Abbey. 5 years have passed, 5 summers with a length of 5 long winters, and again I hear these water. Here the word 5 is being repeated at the beginning of successive lines, and that is Anaphora. And Wordsworth is trying to emphasize the word 5 in these lines. Now here is another instance of Anaphora, and this is an excerpt from Charlie Chaplin's famous speech, The Great Dictator. And it goes like this. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. And these speakers or the orators use Anaphora to emphasize a certain idea. And here Chaplin has also used the word hour to highlight that that as human we have a shared responsibility. That is what he's trying to highlight, that as a human we have a shared responsibility. And there is also another Anaphora, that is more than. It's repeated in the beginning at the beginning of successive sentences again. That is with a repetition of more than, he emphasizes that kindness or humanity are much important than machinery and cleverness. So in speeches, especially in political speeches, the orators or eloquent speakers, they use Anaphora to convey some important messages to the listeners or to the audience. And sometimes they used to inspire them, to motivate, to encourage them. They also used to convince and also to challenge. So that is Anaphora. Hope you understood. Now here we'll take a look at the examples again. Now here are the examples that we have discussed. Just go through it, and that will really give you a clear idea of what Anaphora is.
And next is epistrophe, and here is the definition. Epistrophe is a figure of speech in which one or more words repeat at the end of successive phrases, clauses or sentences. And epistrophe is also called epiphora or antistrophe. And don't get confused epistrophe with apostrophe, so that's different. And it is just the opposite of Anaphora. That is, Anaphora is a repetition of a word or a group of words or word in successive sentences. So the repetition at the beginning of successive sentences or lines, that is Anaphora. But the repetition at the end of successive phrases, clauses or sentences, that is epistrophe. The beginning, that is Anaphora, and epistrophe comes at the repetition comes at the end of phrases or lines or clauses. Now, let's move on to examples.
These are the lines from Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice, and Shakespeare frequently used anaphoras and epistrophes in his plays and even in his sonnets. Now look at the example. The words "the ring," that is the underlined words "the ring," are being repeated at the end of successive lines, and that is epistrophe. When the repetition comes at the end of successive lines, that is called epistrophe, and the repetition comes at the beginning of successive lines, that is anaphora. So an epistrophe is the reverse of anaphora. Hope that is clear. Now let's move on to another example. Most famous words of Abraham Lincoln at Gettysburg: a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And the underlined words "the people" are repeated at the end of successive clause, and that is epistrophe. Another example from again from Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice: "I'll have my bond, speak not against my bond." So the words "my bond" are repeated at the end of successive sentences. So that is epistrophe, and which is just the reverse of anaphora. And you can see that these words or these epistrophes are it can arouse emotions in listeners or readers, and it makes the lines more enjoyable and memorable. And many speakers, or even Steve Jobs and Barack Obama, used these devices, that is anaphora, in their speeches, and that make the speeches or the writings more powerful. Now let's see another, a combination of anaphora and epistrophe. Symploce. The definition: repetition of a word or phrase at the beginning of successive sentences or clauses, and repetition of another word or phrase at the end of those same sentences or clauses. Or the combination of anaphora and epistrophe is symploce. So let's get into the examples. Here are a few examples of symploce. When there is a talk of hatred, let us stand up and talk against it. When there is a talk of violence, let us stand up and talk against it. And here you can see a group of words: when there is talk of. These words are repeated at the beginning of successive sentences, successive lines. Now again, another set of words, that is "let us stand up and talk against it," are repeated at the end of successive lines. So both anaphora, when there is talk of, is an anaphora, and "let us stand up and talk against it" is an epistrophe. So when both comes in successive lines, that is symploce. Or a combination of anaphora and epistrophe makes symploce. Another example is: "that Angelo's person, is it not strange? That Angelo's murder, is it not strange? That Angelo's an adulterous thief, an hypocrite, a virgin violator, is it not strange and strange?" See again, "that Angelos" is repeated, that repetition can be seen at the beginning, so it's an anaphora. And again, you can see at the end of the lines which is being repeated, and that is epistrophe. So when both comes together, it makes symploce.
Here are a few more examples of these literary devices that we have already discussed. Try it yourself, read carefully, and find out the answers.
And thank you for watching.